Okay, so SLA number 10. So for the first question, I have I have lived near the Idaho National Laboratory for pretty much my whole life. A lot of my family has been employed there, and there's different controversies with that because nuclear energy is extremely uh, well, it's a lot better than other alternatives such as coal. Um, However, nuclear waste is a different subject because it's not great for the environment potentially or people. And a lot of times the national laboratory ships off the nuclear waste to Mexico because of like all the deserts. But it's really that's kind of environmental racism. Because it shouldn't be near the white people, it should be near the Mexican people, which is also not okay. Number two, individuals versus business in American society, and how does this affect a person's voice? Yeah. So businesses have a lot more pull, obviously. Big business kind of runs America. And so it's extremely difficult for individuals, even in groups, to mobilize and to speak out against big businesses. And I mean, and there are protections, environmental protections, but there just aren't enough, and they don't protect these individuals that are speaking out enough. And so it makes it next to impossible a lot of times, especially when it's big businesses like, say Monsanto, is a huge, farming business, and it has obliterated a lot of small farming communities. And individuals who speak out are basically just bought off, which makes it really difficult because they need the money because Monsanto has taken all of their profits. Okay, number 3, environmental justice and not in my backyard are often closely related. Why do you think this is? Yeah, so because a lot of times the things that, the not in my backyard people are upset about are actually harmful to the environment. And, that could be different coal plants, it could be different, oil companies, things like that. Fracking or, all those things. So I think they're closely related because a lot of times they do intersect. Because people's backyards are a lot of times, or people's backyards, or, people who live in certain areas, those areas are a lot of times places where these harmful practices are taking place. However, things like wind turbines, which I also lived near, weren't an issue. There were some studies done about how they impacted bird migration, but it really wasn't substantial enough to make a difference, and people just didn't like how they looked, which really didn't matter in the scheme of the energy that they're supplying, the clean energy they're supplying. What perspective in the text most closely relates to the environmental justice movement? So I think a couple different ones do. I talked about the conflict perspective a lot in my discussion board because I think that the conflict perspective really, really relates to, basically anything environmental, because it's always about who we're taking resources from, the earth, who these practices are impacting. So it's very interwoven into that perspective. But I also think maybe like, the functionalist perspective, because all of these different systems are interlapping, such as, big business interlaps with, uh, you know, these oppressive systems, such as, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Essentially, there's a lot that could be said for the functionalist perspective because there is, overlapping with different systems, because the environment impacts different systems and big businesses impact different systems, and it can be a really macro or micro level thing. All right, what social work skills do you think have the most potential to affect the environmental justice movement? Advocacy, absolutely. And I think that advocacy, and Kernan brought this up in his discussion board post, needs to be very specific in its goal. It needs to be uplifting Indigenous voices who are most impacted by these harmful environmental practices, because they know what they need a lot better than we do. So we need to advocate for those people, and then also advocate for policies that will help the environment, such as, a carbon tax, things like that.